Welcome back to WDRB Media and WGIV, the soul of Charlotte, and those streaming live through the free TuneIn Radio app. You're listening to Ask Lori, and I'm your host, Lori Ann Davis. If you're just tuning in, we've been discussing living and loving in high definition. And if you are frustrated with the not finding your soulmate, tired of being single, then you're going to want to join this free event that I have coming up on January 15th. It's an open discussion on dating, relationships, and sex. You can go onto my website, LoriAnnDavis.com, that's LORIANN Davis.com, and find all the information. It is part of my Successful Singles group. And joining us in the studio today is Miss Lindsay Enita, who is going to be talking to us about living and loving in high definition. Welcome.
Hi, Lori. How are you today?
Good. Thank you so much for coming. This is such an important topic, and I am so glad that you are here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Why don't you tell our listeners just a little bit about what you do and how they can contact you when they want to know more after listening to you today.
Okay, my name is Lindsay Enita, and I am the owner of Transparent Grace here in Charlotte. What I do is actually help people live high-definition lives. In life, we all have valleys and peaks, and most times in life, we don't stay up on those peaks very long.
That is true, unfortunately.
Right. Yes, and that's professionally, that's personally.
Yes.
And so what I do is help people navigate through that downtime. Going down the mountain in the valleys to really dig up the treasures, because that's where character is built, that's where wisdom is grown, and that's where we really find out who we are. So at Transparent Grace, I help them navigate through those times. In the process, they create a high definition life that is really about who they are and who they want to be in the world. They can contact me at my website, LindsayEnita.com, LindsayEnita.com, and sign up for my newsletter, because there's all kind of free stuff that comes out that's only for the people who are on my newsletter. Also, you can reach me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the like.
Yep, and you can find it through my information too. You can always contact me. So let's talk a little bit today about what the definition of a high definition life is.
Okay, a high definition life is one that is filled with clarity. Most times people are very unclear about who they are. They know what they want to do. They know they want to be an accountant or be a this or that, but they have not been intentional about finding out the life that they want to lead. And so what I do is say, okay, what is it that you want out of life? How do you want to live? What's important to you? And we work to extract the high definition, your high definition during that time. So high definition life is one of clarity. It's one of intentionality, being intentional about what you want and who you are and who you want in your life.
That's a biggie, isn't it?
Right.
Yes, that's one of the things that I talk to singles a lot about when I'm working with singles, is getting really clear on who are they, what relationship are they attracting?
Right.
Because frequently that's why they're single and frustrated.
Right, exactly. Yes. And so in making or creating this high definition life, they're able to have a solid foundation about who they are. Therefore, they attract the people that they desire. And when you have that standard, because it's really a standard, when you are standing in a high definition life, example for me, I know who I want in my life and who I don't. And sometimes it's hard to make that decision, but it's the best one, because now I have a barometer, if you will, and a measure.
And you have that solid foundation.
Oh, yes.
So that when you're not in the peaks and you end up in those valleys, you don't go down so low. I mean, that's one of the things you find is the more you work to stay, that when you do drop down, you don't drop down as low, and what happens? You bounce back.
Right.
Much quicker.
You can go in your valley and say, okay, this is my low point, and I know it. And I don't have to go into desperation mode, especially when we have come out of a bad relationship. You don't have to go into desperation mode, because you already have your standard. So when those suitors come, and they will, then you have a measure to say, a foundation to say, this is my level, and I'll go no lower.
Yes. We call that the chooser. You're the chooser. So who are you choosing? It's not about being chosen. It's about choosing.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about living that high definition life and loving in that high definition life.
Okay. one of the main things that I need people to always understand is that they're made up of spirit, mind, and body.
Yes.
And for me, as a Christian, I'll use me as an example. As a Christian, I don't lead out and say, I just love Jesus. And that's not how I lead my life, just blurting out like that. However, I live a life of standard that should say that for me. So when I go out, it draws people who also have that standard.
Right. Whether they use the same terminology as you.
Right. Or not. So when I go out, then I have a way of pulling people in and attracting people that then have my same, beliefs and mindsets, my same values, so that then those who don't can just go on with their life and I can be okay with mine. But my life and my circle and my circumstances are okay and balanced. Then also, if you have that in place, then that goes into the self-talk, changing the mindset. Because once you know who you are, once we have set that high definition, most people have more negative self-talk than they realize. So if they can understand who they are spiritually, that sets the foundation for their identity, and their self-talk changes.
It does. We think that we are going about our day conscious. Right?
Right.
But they say that almost 90% of our thoughts are coming from our unconscious, not our conscious. So we actually are walking around most of the time, living in our unconscious. So thoughts that are very deep is what's kind of guiding us and steering us in our life, unless we live a
high definition life
and we learn
become
to change that.
Very intentional about who we are and how we live and what we're telling ourselves, because we all tell ourselves a story.
Yes,
and if you're telling yourself a negative story, not realizing it, then if you become aware of it, you can go, that's the story I don't want to tell.
Yes.
And you can change, refocus, and move forward in a positive, preferred story.
And that's really important in relationships, too. How are you looking at your partner?
Right.
Are you looking at the things that you don't like? Or are you telling the same story of, well, they always do that, so they're going to do that again?
Right.
What thoughts are going on? And when you change those thoughts, I know that we think it's all about the partner needs to change, correct?
Right.
And do you hear that? I hear that a lot.
All the time. It must be them.
My relationship will be better when they change. But in reality, we really do draw out of them.
Right. We pull out of them. We have expectations, and this is by personal experience. I'm a transparency coach. I speak about me very openly.
Right.
And one of the things in my relationship that is very difficult to overcome, but not impossible, is playing that negative story and just saying, you know what, that was the past. This is something that I believe of them now, and I will only speak that story. That's very difficult, but it is also very possible, and it will change the course of your relationship if you allow it.
It will, and it might not necessarily mean that you will draw out of your partner what you are looking for.
No.
It may be that you will learn that your partner isn't capable of that.
Exactly.
And that you may need to then decide what to do about that realization. But I see in my practice a lot of times that it really does draw the best out of that partner.
Most times I believe it will.
I do too.
I believe it will. It also brings a truth and awareness about you. Because when you point the finger at the spouse or at the partner, then you're looking to them to change, but sometimes it's you that really needs to change.
Well, and we're all we have control over. We're the only things we can change. So when we change ourselves, whether the relationship gets better or not, we have changed. And so if we wake up one day and say, we really aren't compatible and we do need to go our separate ways, you then, though, have become the best person you can be. So you then take that forward into that next relationship.
Exactly.
So there is absolutely nothing to lose by being the best person you can be. And you're happier, right?
Yeah, and that brings that clarity that I was talking about and having a high definition life. Now you're clear. Okay, not only I'm in this relationship, but maybe they're not able to give me the things that I'm needing or expecting. And to be honest, that is a great place to be, because you don't want to try to make a relationship unstoppable when they can't give you what you need.
Right.
And you can release them to go out to be with who they need, and you release yourself to be found or find that person that is for you.
Right. Yes.
So you live in a better and more aware state. So
Yes, and we all need to walk around not asleep.
Right.
But we need to wake up, and we need to be looking at what
Right.
we're doing, taking responsibility for our thoughts, and taking responsibility for our own happiness. I think
Yes.
that goes into that high definition.
Yes,
life,
of
is
course.
That we're responsible for our own happiness, not somebody else.
Yeah.
So we have to find it within ourselves.
Right. And for me, one of the things that I teach is that, and this is because I am a Christian, is that as that basis in my life, I know that no one else can really do that for me. It is unfair to ask a spouse to make you happy all the time because they're incapable of doing that. You have to find that happiness. You have to be responsible. And for Christians, yes, it is in Jesus that you find those things. But in other faiths, in other practices, you are still responsible for finding your own happiness.
Yes.
And it's a little unfair for us to expect that of our spouses when that's something that's on our plate.
And then once we've found that and we don't have those expectations of our partner, we might decide that they're actually a good match for us.
Exactly.
You know, we might be able to share enough with them to say, wow, you know, I can share this part of my life with you. The
Right.
rest of it, I'm getting my needs met someplace else.
Right.
I'm happy. And so you might see them in a different light,
Right.
which is a beautiful gift for
Exactly.
them and for you.
Exactly. And as long as you are building a community, you're not living life by yourself. You have family, you have professional friends and support, you have, ministry things, all these life things. So you can get fed from other places.
Definitely.
That person does not have to be your end all be all. And the thing is that if you live a high definition life, it's either going to force that person you're with to live that kind of life or it's going to make them uncomfortable. Either
That's
way, you know they're going to stay or they're going to go.
Right.
And you're okay with that because you know who you are. You know what your foundation and your standard is. And then if they're not it's okay that you let them go because they're not the only person out there of the 7 billion plus people on this earth.
No. And we live in Charlotte, so we have a
Yes.
lot of people in Charlotte to choose
That's
from.
right.
You know, I have very high energy level and I'm on the go and I'm always interested in new things. And I'm really clear with my partner that I don't expect them to come on that journey with all of those things with me. I have certain expectations. There's a place in my life that I want them to fit in. And I
Right.
want to share that particular little corner of my life with them.
Right.
If they come in and decide to share other areas with me, or he, not they, there's only one, guys. But I'm very clear that if you share this with me, I am very, very happy. If you want to share other areas and you want to try
Right.
some other areas of my life with me, that's wonderful.
Yes.
But as long as you're in this one little corner and we're there together,
Right.
then our relationship is solid.
Yes,
And
I
those are
agree.
my expectations.
I agree. And in finding a high definition life, you set those expectations. When we work together, you know what those non-negotiables are, those
Yes.
things where you cannot waver. Because if you waver, that means you're compromising who you are and what you stand for. And in an unstoppable relationship, you do not want to do that.
No, you definitely do not. Thank you so much for being here with us. You had such great information.
Thank
And
you.
we have already discussed you coming back. So listeners, stay tuned because Lindsay is going to be back and we're going to have more topics to discuss. Check out her website, lindsayenita.com.
Yes.
If you need help finding her, you can always contact me. And after the break, we will continue our discussion on living and loving in high definition. You're listening to Ask Lori, and I'm your host, Lori Ann Davis. And you're tuned in to WDRB Media and WGIV, the soul of Charlotte.